Now, we all know about the basic policies for drinking on campus, or at least we should.
For my first time as a reporter, I had to interview Cole about legal substance use right after seeing illegal substance use. Let's switch things up and start this episode with some story time. It was a Friday night at Whittier College, and I walked into a dorm room with two friends from the ALN crew and suddenly found that two women were doing lines of nose candy off of their desk in first floor stoffer. Let's call one of those women L. So she snorts up some booger sugar, but suddenly two Campo officers walked into the hallway and went into a dorm room, and then walked to the next dorm room. We quickly let them know that Campo seemed to be doing a random inspection, and with adrenaline, alcohol, and Peruvian marching powder rushing through her veins, Elle did one last inhale, and then bolted into the hallway with her large plastic cup of wine, blasted out the exit doors, tripped, skidded across the ground on her knees, and dropped the cup, which went bouncing away across the ground, spraying wine all over the place. She ran back to the room, bleeding from both knees, clothes splattered in wine, and said, I'm fine, it's not that bad, I hardly feel it actually, as drops of blood and wine dripped onto the floor. One of my friends quickly took her to the bathroom and cleaned her up, but the moral of the story is,
cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Then on April 30th, I attended the weekly QCTV meeting, as I always did, and someone brought up doing a segment on Whittier's drinking policy during the meeting. And Cole's name was brought up as someone to interview because he'd just spoken about the subject at a school senate meeting. I mentioned that I'd actually spoken with him before due to the roommate fiasco from season 3, episodes 8 through 10, and I'd spoken to him about whether I needed to complete an alcohol EDU class because I don't drink alcohol. Not to mention the incident with Campo and empty beer bottle props. To my chagrin, I was immediately assigned to be the point of contact for this, since I was the only one that had previously spoken to him about alcohol-related things. I sent him an email, and although he'd been very timely about responding to my previous emails, this time I never got a response from him at all. I reached out to someone else from the administration. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be pronounced Jeanne or Jeanne, but I reached out to Miss Ortiz and managed to get a meeting scheduled with both of them through her. And although he was CC'd on those emails too, he never responded there either. I reported what had happened at the next QCTV meeting a week later, and I heard a senior say, "F***ing Cole," under his breath. By this time, I'll admit I had a fairly negative impression of Cole. He seemed like a likable guy at first, but I'd quickly found out that he was nice in the way he interacted with people on the surface, but didn't seem to be nice in regard to the policy decisions he made regarding other people and their lives. I felt relieved to discover I wasn't the only person who felt this way, because I was worried I'd accidentally made an enemy in the administration, and I didn't want that. I didn't want the current situation either, but at least it seemed like he treated multiple people this way and not just me, and other people had seen through that initial nice demeanor. To be honest, I was a little relieved that I'd be interviewing both him and Miss Ortiz, and not him alone. But we shot the anchor episode for that month on May 1st, and since I was the point of contact for Cole and Miss Ortiz, I was the reporter for that segment as well.
Hi poets, I'm Victoria Esker.
And I'm Jordan Robledo.
And welcome to the May Anchor episode.
With recent events regarding students and drinking off campus, Whittier College administration is enlisting a new group of policies to tackle this new issue. Let's take it to Eric to learn more about these policies.
Thanks, Tori and Jordan.
It was my first time being a reporter for QCTV, so I was excited and a little nervous about it. I wasn't as involved with QCTV as some of the other film groups on campus, but I showed up to do the work whenever they asked me to, and I had fun doing it. I believe Selorm Kploanyi, who I mentioned in Season 4, Episode 8, was the videographer for our segment, and in hindsight, that's really cool because she went on to be a very successful filmmaker. However, Miss Ortiz was sick that day, so it was just Cole, Selorm, and I in his office, and I couldn't help but remember the last time I'd been in his office and how intense that had been. It was a long interview, too. Cole talked for over half an hour, so much longer than anticipated that one of my QCTV bosses that I mentioned in the previous episode, Sandra Carollos, who was editing that segment, actually had to cut large pieces of his interview out just so it would fit within the runtime we needed. But we got it done, and I could now add reporter to my resume if I wanted to. And if I learned anything from that experience, it was that sometimes you have to overlook personal grievances to continue professional relationships. Because I didn't like Cole and I didn't like how his decisions impacted students, but I still had to put on a smile and shake his hand and be cordial so that we could shoot the episode that was assigned to us. But you'll have to tune in next week to hear about how later that day, I got into a networking mixer at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood.
As you can see, poets, these changes will have a major impact on how you drink on and off campus. And it's definitely met by mixed responses. This is Eric Hinwood reporting for QCTV. Back to you in the studio.